Welcome to the We Can Fix Climate Change podcast. In today's episode, we'll cover Spain's progress towards decarbonization, potentially stalling due to climate change, denying political party, concerns over the EU's climate diplomat appointment, EU's encouraging achievement in cutting fossil fuel use, California's resolution for a Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty, as well as the unpredictable effect of extreme heat on U.S. food production, and a curious disparity in beef consumption. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay informed and inspired with our latest episodes.
Have you heard about Adam Bandt? He's a pretty influential politician from the Australian Greens Party. Recently, he's been urging Australians to get involved in climate protests. In fact, The Guardian even wrote an article about it called Adam Bandt urges Australians to embrace civil disobedience and join climate protests. Bandt, the leader of the Australian Greens, has urged people to join disruptive climate protests to pressure the Albanese government to stop opening new fossil fuel mines. He plans to help blockade Australia's largest coal port and has written to the leaders of 16 Pacific Island nations, suggesting that their support for Australia's bid to host a UN climate summit should be conditional on the government taking stronger climate action. Bandt accused Labor of being hell-bent on opening more coal and gas mines and called for more people to support groups that engage in non-violent civil disobedience, such as Disrupt Burrup Hub, Rising Tide, and Extinction Rebellion.
Spain has been really stepping up its game when it comes to decarbonization. They are making some serious progress towards their goal. By the end of this year, Spain is on track to generate half of its electricity from renewable sources. And they're not stopping there. They're actually planning to stop using coal power plants by 2025, 5 years ahead of schedule. But here's the thing. Despite all this amazing progress, there's a cloud hanging over Spain's environmental ambitions. Their recent general election didn't produce a coalition government. And now, with the race to secure a parliamentary majority, the Vox Party, which has been known to deny climate change, might play a major role in forming the government. This could be a serious setback for Spain's green agenda. It's a cause for concern because the Vox Party's stance on climate change could potentially hinder further environmental progress. We're talking about a party that doesn't fully acknowledge the urgency of the climate crisis. So, if they end up being a key player in the government, there's a real risk that Spain's environmental ambitions could be compromised.
Climate change news highlights a concerning development in the fight against climate change: the EU's nomination of Wopke Hoekstra as its top climate diplomat. It's a decision that doesn't exactly fill one with joy, especially if you were hoping for some robust leadership and serious climate action. Hoekstra's conservative leanings and tepid commitment to ambitious climate goals are giving us reason to question just how serious the EU is about tackling this global emergency. We really ought to be demanding more potent and impactful strategies to combat climate change, and that means keeping a close eye on our leaders and holding them responsible for their choices.
According to a report by Carbon Brief, the European Union has achieved a noteworthy milestone in its ongoing efforts to combat climate change. In the first half of 2023, the EU successfully reduced its dependency on fossil fuels for electricity by an impressive 17%, marking a historic low in its reliance on these carbon-intensive energy sources. The decline in fossil fuel use was most pronounced in Germany, where it fell by 28%. This was due to the closure of several coal-fired power plants in the country. The use of natural gas for electricity generation also fell in the EU by 13%. This was partly due to the higher cost of gas, which made it less competitive with other forms of energy. Renewable energy sources accounted for 40% of electricity generation in the EU in the first half of 2023, up from 34% in the same period last year. Solar power was the fastest-growing renewable energy source, with its share of electricity generation increasing by 21%.
As reported by Clean Technica, California has taken a major step in combating climate change by calling for a Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty. This is a significant victory for climate activists who have long advocated for such a treaty. The resolution, which passed the California State Assembly in September, urges the United States government to support the negotiation and adoption of the FNPT. The resolution was approved by a 43-27 vote, with no Republican support. The FNPT aims to restrict the production, export, and use of fossil fuels, similar to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty that prohibits the spread of nuclear weapons. While it does not propose an outright ban on fossil fuels, it would make their use more challenging and less widespread. This movement has gained momentum, with several countries and cities, including New York City, Paris, and the European Union, endorsing the FNPT. In another positive development, the U.S. Department of Energy has unveiled a $15.5 billion funding and loan package to facilitate the transition to electric vehicles. This program will specifically focus on retrofitting existing factories to produce EVs and their components, while supporting workers affected by this transition. Called a Just Transition Program, it aligns with President Biden's agenda to invest in clean energy and generate employment opportunities. The DOE expects this initiative to create or support approximately 400,000 jobs, ensuring the well-being of workers and communities. These moves, both at the state and federal level, underscore a growing commitment to addressing climate change and transitioning towards cleaner, more sustainable energy sources.
According to an article on news.tulane.edu, a recent study published in the journal Nature Food examined beef consumption trends in the United States between 1999 and 2018. The researchers analyzed data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey and discovered some interesting patterns. It turns out that the top 12% of beef consumers in the U.S. consumed an average of 100 pounds of beef per year, while the remaining 88% only ate around 20 pounds. The beef industry is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, water pollution, and deforestation. And also, in a thought-provoking article from The Guardian titled, "The Summer Food Went Weird, the impact of extreme heat on our food system is discussed." Not only did the scorching temperatures affect our oceans, land, and skies, but they also caused unforeseen changes in the way our food is produced. Interestingly, not every crop suffered, and the effects were not evenly distributed across regions. This reveals that previous scientific models for extreme heat may have been inadequate in predicting the full extent of its consequences. The article underscores the importance of adaptability for farmers, fishers, and pollinators as we navigate an uncertain future.
In today's episode, we heard about the call for greater civil engagement for urgent climate action, potential hindrances to decarbonization in Spain, concerns over the EU's climate leadership, milestones achieved in fossil fuel reduction, California's push for a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty, and the unpredictable effects of extreme heat on U.S. food production. Thanks for listening to today's episode. The We Can Fix Climate Change podcast is based on stories from our weekly Substack newsletter. As always, don't forget to subscribe, share this podcast with your friends, and visit all our social media channels. Links are, as always, in the description box.